My friends, good evening. I'm Mark Hyman from Greensboro, North Carolina. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad you're with us this evening. With Viva Learning, we thank our friends from Philips for helping sponsor Cases That Haunt Us, the cases that just went south in your career, the things that didn't happen the way that you wish that they did. I'm Mark Hyman from Greensboro, North Carolina. I had 32 years of private practice, which I adored. And then I had the privilege of teaching at the UNC Adams School of Dentistry since 2018. And I'm just going to talk about real world Monday morning. What do you do in your practice? The cases that haunt us. It's a wonderful story from your childhood. Alice is walking down the road, Alice in Wonderland. She comes upon the Cheshire Cat and she doesn't know which way to go. And she looks at the cat and says, "Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here?" The cat says, "That depends a good deal on where you want to go." Alice says, "I don't much care." And the cat said, "Then it doesn't matter which way you go." My dear friends, I do care which way you go. I care deeply, passionately that you have the career that you want, that you have the joy and fulfillment and love and passion and enthusiasm for a wonderful dental life. So we're going to talk about how we did this in our private practice, how we screwed it up, and how we fixed it. A key to my seminars, friends, is these three words. What is appropriate? What is appropriate for your patient at this time in their life, where you try to balance their wants and their needs. Their wants and their needs. And to me, friends, what I want from the men and women on the webinar tonight is to don't you ever, 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 ever say to a patient, you need a crown, you need to floss, you need a Sonicare, you need to use day white, night white, you need to lose weight, you need to change that hairstyle. Need is a punitive four-letter word. A better four-letter word for your patients are want. What do you want? What are your goals for your health, teeth, and smile? The times that I got bit in the butt chairside is when I didn't really figure out what the patient's wants and needs were, what was appropriate for them at this time in their life. As I talk to you friends tonight, I would ask you the question, what do you want to do in your life? Is it just drilling holes in teeth and stuff and filling inside them? Or do you want to make a profound difference in people's lives? And that's where dentistry gets really sweet. That's where this gets to be a real whole lot of fun. When men and women come to you and present themselves like this, and you look at them, and instead of saying, "Shame on you, you need to brush, you need to floss, what's wrong with you, you need fluoride," you look at them and say, "I am so glad you're here. Thanks for coming in. How can I help you? Tell me more." And you go through the process that we're going to review tonight, and you snap your fingers and they look like this. And that's when dentistry is kind of fun. Along the way, we certainly do stub our toe, and those are the cases that haunt us. As I start tonight, those of you who don't know of me, you may say, who's this guy and what's his story? And has he earned the right to speak? Has he earned the right to stand up in front of me, to be on this webinar, this podcast, and ask me to stretch and grow and do something different? I hope you would say to me, Dr. Mark, you have earned the right to speak. I finished dental school. I'm a quadruple Tar Heel, UNC Chapel Hill in North Carolina, undergrad dental school residency, and then now I'm on faculty. But when I finished dental school in December 1983, moved to the Holy Land. I worked as a volunteer dentist for 4 months. I grew my beard. I grew my hair long. You look at that picture, you know why some animals eat their young, right? And then I did a 2-year oral medicine hospital dental residency, and I bought this basically bankrupt practice in Greensboro, North Carolina. Look at their steps there. Picture our senior citizens working their way up the steps. If they didn't have a heart attack, I knew I could work on them. But that tree to the right would bloom 1 week out of the year. It's the prettiest thing you ever saw in your life. Story in my life, have a photographer coming out to take photographs, and he has the tree on the left. The landlord had the tree on the left pruned. But if you've been to a Mark Hyman seminar, you learn to take lemons and make lemonade. So there's a woman dentist that practiced to the left that accepted capitation PPO HMO plans. So that tree on the left is a capitation dental tree. The tree on the right is private practice fee for service. Am I right? Let me hear you say yeah, and let's rock and roll. So I practiced there for 19 years, and it was cheap and it was easy to work there. Here I am, my first week of private practice. Check it out, styling and profiling, polyester curtain, short shorts, dead plant. Man, you know you're hurting for credibility when you put your frickin' dental school picture on the wall, but I was so happy. And then the receptionist quit 6 weeks after I started, and I fired the chain-smoking hygienist, and I had one employee left. Don't you just love it when that happens? Then the Lord did smile upon me because I went to a Linda Miles seminar, and that changed my career, hearing Linda. So after 19 years of private practice, I got fired and had to go practice here. I know what you're thinking, pobrecito, right? Now give me your first visceral gut impression when you walk into Dr. Mark's new practice. Does that scream attention to detail, quality, elegance, relationship. I wanted it to look like somebody's living room, like their den, and not like a dental office. So that was kind of cool. As we go through cases that haunt you, friends, the fact is this is about two choices life gives every dental person in every situation. Either to the left, you can sit, sulk, dwell on how unfair dental life is, and life is to you, or you could try to figure out how to make a bad situation work in your favor. My dear friends, this is one of the most important statements I can make to you tonight. Business is nothing but relationships. Business is nothing but relationships. With COVID, we may spend more time fist bumping, right? But the fact is, you have got to get to know your patient. The cases that haunt me are the cases that I did not follow through with my system. I didn't get to know the patient well enough. I didn't meet with a specialist. I didn't have a clear idea what their goals were for their health, teeth, and smile. I didn't have comfortable financial arrangements. I didn't meet with the lab, whatever it's going to be. So tonight we're going to take about an hour and go through a bunch of cases. We're going to get back together as a group. I hope all of you, May 25th, where we'll do the second half of the seminar, and I'll thoroughly enjoy it. So let's do a case. This is Easy Ed. Easy Ed's a private investigator. If you see him once during the day, say hi. You see him twice, you're being followed. Ed is pulling what is affectionately known as the double cell phone technique. My friends, it's not the people you fire who make your life miserable. It's the people that you don't fire. The fact is, friends, every business has a percentage of business that's bad business. And it's okay to look at a patient and say, what you need is simply not what I do. Your patient is always right, friends, right? They just don't have to be your patient. It's okay to look at Easy Ed and say, this is not what we do in this practice. It's amazing how many times I'd walk in and he was on his cell phone. Here we are 17 years later. He's still on his freaking cell phone. So I finally figured a way around it when he'd say, okay, let's get going. And I'd pick up my own cell phone and call my wife, say, hey, honey, how the doggies? Moo, 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 miss you, honey. Or I'd grab the phone away from Ed and have a conversation with his clients. The fact is, friends, to avoid the cases that haunt you, I'd love for you to make a list of patients that you will fire Monday morning. Not because they're hard to get numb, not because the cases are complicated, but if somebody is coming late, leaving early, not paying their bills, if they're confrontational, if they're adversarial, if they're rude to your teammates, they're absolutely fired. Somebody wants to chest up to me and cha-cha, bring it on. If they're rude to my team, they're absolutely fired. We're going to go through a few must-haves before we do some more cases. You got to have a killer new patient experience if you want to avoid the cases that haunt you. I would sit down with every new patient, every emergency patient in our consultation with my treatment coordinator, the patient, and Dr. Wonderful, and we would have a conversation. If you say to me, Dr. Marr, give me a pearl here that will transform my career tomorrow morning, one of the most important things I can tell you is to sit down and get to know your patient better. If you would like to grab a screenshot or write these down, the next two slides, there's 10 questions that I think is imperative that you ask every patient, emergency patient, comprehensive care patient, people who've been in your practice. If you can't answer these 10 questions, you don't know your patient well enough. The idea that we out-listen the competition. Every case I show you during our time together, and anytime you see him in a seminar, it's a patient that went to another dentist, said no to them, and yes to Dr. Mark and his team. So why is that? The first question I used to ask is, do you have any trouble finding your way here to the practice? With Google Maps, that's kind of antiquated. So then I would say, who can we thank for referring you? There's a big distinction between you're part of my PPO, you have to see me, or Dr. Trung sent you to me. He said you're really expensive, but you're the best. How can I help you? 5 magic words that will change your career. How can I help you? And listen intently. Often the patient will say, I hate my smile. The temptation is to answer that with, well, that's because you have a diastomata between number 8 and 9 and class 2 D2 laterals on 7 and 10, and your teeth are Vita shade A17 and your mama dressed you funny. Don't do that, friends. Patients say, I hate my smile. Say, tell me more. What about your smile do you hate? Is it color? Is it size? Is it shape? And in the patient's own words, you listen carefully as they guide you through that. How can I help you? I hate my smile. Tell me more. What is it that you hate? I hate the color. I hate the gap between my 2 front teeth. I hate my teeth are crooked. Follow that up with, how does that make you feel? They may say, I don't smile for pictures. Well, do you have pictures coming up? What did your last dentist tell you? My last dentist said it'd be really expensive to fix, to which I would say, our finances are concerned with you. You just don't know unless you ask. Why now, friends, is a killer question that so many of us do not ask. Why now? Why'd you come in today versus tomorrow, next week, next month, next year? I've had patients say to me, Dr. Mark, it's Wednesday. I'm losing my insurance Friday. Now, what does that mean? The fact is, friends, you don't know what it means. It could mean without the dental insurance reimbursement, they're not doing anything. Or they may say, I paid for the dang stuff. I just figured I may as well use it. So ask, why now? What's the time frame? Next, what are your long-term goals for your health, your teeth, and your smile? I'll say, I'm not being smart with you, ma'am. Is it important that you keep your teeth the rest of your life? And if they say, yes, I want to keep my teeth, but then they say, I don't want x-rays and I don't want an exam, and you push on my gums and blood and pus pour out, but I don't want scaling, root planing, then you can stop and sit back and say, well, hang on a minute. You said it was your goal to keep your teeth. You said you don't want a slow, painful root canal. But now you're telling me you don't want all these diagnostic tools. You don't want a complete exam. You don't want me to do my finest dentistry. This just doesn't feel like a good fit. Who else has input here? My wife is a nurse. All family health care decisions go through her. I just want to make sure you're presenting your comprehensive care, optimal care treatment plan to the decision maker in the family. Do you have a budget in mind? I had someone say to me, Dr. Mark, I want a gorgeous white smile. I got $500. You basically say, here's a tube a day white and a Sonicare, because that's about what we can do for you. I had someone say to me, money's a big deal, Dr. Mark. I only have $20,000 or $30,000 to spend on this case. To which I would say, we can do that. When would you like to be finished? Help me, gang. Where's the insurance question? Where's the insurance question? It's not there. I care deeply that the patients get whatever they're entitled to for their yearly restricted dental reimbursement. It's not insurance. It's not like medical insurance. So we need to quit calling it that. I did a webinar for my coaches on Jameson management, and they put this on Facebook. So if it was on Facebook, it must be true, right? Write this down if this speaks to you, or take a screenshot. They said, I said, when I stopped telling people what they needed and started listening to what they wanted, everything changed. If that speaks to you, friends, stop telling your patients what they need. You need a crown, you need to floss, you need to whiten, and listen carefully to what they want. What are their goals for their health, teeth, and smile? You'll be amazed what'll happen to your practice. Brother Steve Jobs, rest in peace, said it doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. I pay homage to these magnificent women that gave me such love and loyalty, such unbelievable love and loyalty. And I cherish them. I worked for this group for over 150 years total, and I adore every one of them. For my business team members, any product that I show you, friends, I paid for. There are a lot of wonderful automated patient confirmation systems. My business team members said this would save them an hour and a half to 3 hours a day using automated patient confirmation systems. There's wonderful systems. There's Sesame, Demand Force, Lighthouse, Solution Reach, all fine systems. We switched to Curve, to Weave, and that absolutely made the profound difference in the practice. So again, just grab your cell phone and take a screenshot of that. If you take a screenshot and fill out a form there, you get a complimentary $50 gift card just for going on and doing a demo. This will save your business team an hour and a half to 3 hours a day, friends. What can your business team do with that extra time? Making care phone calls, making more new patient experience calls, follow up on unpaid accounts, get a list of your pending care and call those patients can make a huge impact on your career. My coaching hero, Dr. Kathy Jameson, said these 8 magic words that changed my life. 23 years ago, she looked at me and said, Mark, how do you create the sense of urgency? I'd love for you to bring that back to your practice and ask that of your team in Morning Huddle every day the rest of your career. Today, how will we create the sense of urgency? And here's the ticket. How many of you drawn a tooth on the bracket table for a patient? I know you have. Come clean. Don't lie to me. Because we've all done it. It's Dork 101, isn't it? This is the number one single clinical thing I can teach you in a seminar is using intraoral cameras on every patient for every procedure. DigiDoc is the number one rated camera by Reality Magazine. It's got over 50% of the market share in the United States. It's an American company. I had 8 operatories. I had 8 DigiDocs. They have just introduced this X90 camera. The quality of the image is sensational. You can use this for your photographs, for your Invisalign cases. The quality of the image rivals your SLR camera. I had 8 operatories. I had 8 digidocs. We took a picture on every patient for every procedure before, during, and after. If you do that, friends, your world will never be the same. Again, I so appreciate all of you that are on tonight. There's not a one of you that has the verbal skills superior to putting this picture up in front of your patient and just looking at them and saying, wow. The top left photo is using Loom, L-U-M, the Digidoc Transillumination device. To be able to document that, we've got a brand new concept coming in dentistry with AI. There are many companies that are getting into AI. Pearl is my favorite, wonderful company to work with, but there's a rival company that now has bought an insurance claims processing organization where now the computer will scan your radiographs and make a judgment on your dentistry without a dentist involved. And all that is showing is mesial distal on a 2-dimensional black and white radiograph. You got to have a 3D photo to show the mesial crack in the marginal ridge, the buccal crack there. Makes a huge difference. Again, there's not a one of you, as talented as you are, that can verbally explain this picture better than just putting this picture up in front of your patient on a large monitor and just saying, wow, tell me what you see, and you will be amazed. Does that make sense, friends? I hope it does. I've had people say to me, Dr. Mark, I can't get my hygienist to use the camera. And here's the verbal skill that we used. I'd look at your hygienist and say, I adore you. I appreciate you so much. As soon as you take a picture, I'll come check you. You can look at that 8 o'clock patient and you can scale that tartar on that lower anterior for 8 hours solid. But until you take one photo, I'm not coming in for a hygiene check. Doctors, I dare you, try that tomorrow, see what happens. Why do we take pictures? Because it is the single most impactful thing you do. If you haven't been taking any photos, grab a screenshot of this. Digidoc will teach you how to take 12 photos in 2 minutes. If you haven't been taking photos consistently, imagine what would happen, doctors, hygienists, teammates, if we committed to taking these 12 photos on everybody starting tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock for the next 6 months. Look at the wealth of information you'd have on your practice. It's simply unbelievable. Dedicated treatment coordinator can make a huge impact on your career and help those cases that haunt you. Having a well-trained team to work really hard, working together with you on the complicated cases makes a huge impact as well. We were a CAD/CAM office. We were the second office in the state of North Carolina to have CEREC technology. Where's Dr. Mark in this picture? You can see my Digidoc control camera photos up in front of the patient so he can see the size of the cavity he had. And my superstar assistants running the case. Dr. Mark would do the numbing, the prep, and walk out, and the assistant would sit down, pack the cord, scan, design, mill, try-ins, pre-cementation, radiograph, do sintering as need be, or staining and glazing, etch, bond, and call Dr. Mark back in. My total time for a crown buildup on a single unit was 30 minutes of doctor time. So think about that, friends. How did Dr. Mark get the confidence to do some of these cases? My time at the Pankey Institute was the most important thing I did inside of dentistry. Time at Spear Education was magnificent as well. Pankey, Spear, Dawson, Coyce, different paths to God, all sensational institutions. Outside of dentistry, the most impactful thing I did was working with the Dale Carnegie organization. How many of you read the Dale Carnegie classic book, How to Win Friends and Influence People? Doctors, maybe if you've read it, but your team hasn't, would it make sense to buy a dozen copies and give it out to your team? That's Mr. Nigel Austin, my Dale Carnegie coach, hero, and mentor, and dear friend. And Nigel would come in. The entire team went through Dale Carnegie training at about $2,000 a person. I've had people say to me, Dr. Mark, are you trying to tell me you spent $2,000 on every teammate for Dale Carnegie training? What happens if they quit? And my answer was, what happens if you don't invest in Dale Carnegie training and they stay? So my team, each woman there was grilled on the concept of how to win friends and influence people, how to control your stress and worry. It absolutely was life-changing material. For coaching in my practice, we had magnificent coaching from Jameson Management. When I got fired after 19 years of private practice and moved to the new facility, Dr. Kathy Jameson came in for a love gift of some time with our practice. 1 year later, my $1 million practice had only gone up 36%. Collections went up 36%. We collected what we produced. Production per day went up 44%. Hygiene production went up 67%, working fewer days per month. If that speaks to you, write down the contact. Each and every one of you, now you're part of Dr. Mark's family. Each of you on the call tonight gets a complimentary 1-hour discovery call with an executive from Jameson, if you so choose. So that's pretty good for 1 year, right? By year 2, my $1 million practice now has only gone up 52%. Friends, we went up over $500,000 in 24 months. Hygiene production went up almost 75% in 24 months, working fewer days per month. If you would like results like this, everybody needs a coach. My classmate at UNC, Michael Jordan, he needed Coach Dean Smith, Coach Phil Jackson with the Bulls. Tiger Woods could have used a different coach, but all of us could use a coach to help guide us and shape us and move us in the right direction. Small changes, friends, can yield an amazing change. So let's do some cases now. You've got the basic foundation for how we do cases, how we try to avoid the cases that haunt us. Millennials, what do we know about this generation? You don't want to spend time working on them, do you? I mean, really? Because they're on their iPhones and they're texting and they're swiping left and right and they're drinking their wine. But the fact is, 7 years from now, millennials will hold 5 times as much wealth as they currently do. The transfer of wealth that is about to happen from the dying grandparents and parents to millennials by the year 2030, it's guesstimated to approach anywhere from 20 to, I've seen a number as high as $70 trillion of assets. Oh my God. So you want to know how to work with this generation. So let's do a case. This is Stacia. The year is 2005, so it's 8 years ago. What do you know about Stacia? She's a brilliant woman. She's an artist, attractive. What's happened to Stacia with tooth number 9? If you look at her smile, would you agree number 9 is darker than number 8? Stacia comes to see Dr. Mark, chief concern. I hate my smile. Tell me more. My front tooth is dark. You go through the 10 questions. What'd your last dentist tell you? He said, well, that'd be really expensive to fix. I said, Stacia, is money an issue? She said, it's a concern, but not a crazy one. I said, let's see what we can do. So what are our choices here? You look at that. That's an attractive smile. You appreciate that 9 is darker than 8. You see where she's got the gutta percha in there. So what are we going to do? We're going to make a lingual access, use your different whitening products that we can use. Using the Philips family of products, you can use your Zoom. You can power whiten it. You can do day white, night white. You can do the carbamide peroxide, sodium peroxide, different chemicals you could put inside the tooth, seal it up with a transitional material, and see what happens. For long-term hygiene, you can certainly do a quad stream, the Philips Sonicare Power Flosser. So here's Stacia. She's done. Tell me what you think. Is she happy? Not yet. Why? How did Dr. Mark do with the whitening? Well, didn't quite work. Those teeth themselves generally are still about Vitashade A17. I'd really like to whiten all of her teeth, which I am going to do. And since I really can't get number 9 to change, we're going to do a prep. That's a pretty deeply dark tooth on number 9, post-endodontic therapy. How's she going to pay for it? We offered patients choices of 3 yeses when it came to paying for their care. The last thing in the world that you want to do is say, would you like to pay today? What's the answer? Nope. See ya. So in our office, we said you have 3 ways to save money. If you pay a week before, you get a 5% bookkeeping courtesy. Day of the race, use your airline charge card to get the miles, or our financial partner, Care Credit. I say, Stacia, how many dollars a day is comfortable for your family? If I asked you, friends, how much is a crown in your practice? Quickly, call it out, blurt it out, write it down. But the fact is, I'm guessing you're saying 1,000, 1,200, 1,500, 2,000, whatever the number is, I don't care. But that's not how people make buying decisions. I want you to figure out, look at your crown buildup fee and divide it by 365. That's what your crown fee is. When I left private practice to teach at the dental school at Chapel Hill, we were charging about $3 a day for a crown over a year's time. It was about $1,500 for a crown buildup. A great thing, if you don't know what you have open to buy in your practice, text integration to this number and get a list. Open to buy means if you are a Care Credit office, you have patients that have been approved for Care Credit and haven't used it yet, I almost guarantee you every office represented tonight has $100,000 of diagnosed undone treatment just sitting there. So what are we going to do? We're going to do headphones, safety glasses, Isolite. I'm an Isolite addict. Isolite is a 5-in-1 bite block, tongue retractor, cheek retractor, suction, LED light. I had 8 operatories. How many Isolites did we have? That's right. We had 8. We used an Isolite on every patient for every procedure. The mouthpieces cost $2. It cuts the time to do a procedure 30 to 50%. I've had people say to me, Dr. Mark, how do you charge the patient for the $2? And I'm like, oh my God, if that isn't 50 Shades of Stupid. Come on now. Are you serious? $2 to get it, do a procedure in 30, 50% less time. Now, do you have a cell phone policy in your practice? Cases that haunt you. What can go wrong if you've done a prep and your patient has their cell phone and they make you an internet meme? What's the worst thing that could happen? They could post you on the internet. Would that be a problem for her to send that to all of her friends? Oh my God. It makes you want to hurl, doesn't it? I mean, look at that. So Stacia put that on the internet. Say, look what Dr. Mark can do for you. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. So there's your before. There's the after. One of the neat things that we do for any restorative cases, we have one dental assistant that is assigned to the case from start to finish. The dental assistant sees the case from start to finish, and then at the end, our assistants like to take their own cheek-to-cheek smile shots with the patient as they build their own portfolios. My lead dental assistant, Athena Escovedo Calloway, I worked for her for almost 20 years. She ended up one of the lead national voices for dental assistant. She spoke at Chicago Midwinter, Yankee Chicago, Hinman, Florida, and at the ADA in San Francisco. One of my hygienists, Elena Berenger-Ivy, became a national speaker as well. So I tried to encourage these women to stretch and to grow. And so they wanted to build their own portfolios, which is kind of cool. So that's 2017. End of the story, right? Friends, would this case have been as interesting if you didn't have a before photograph? And this is why Dr. Mark is screaming at you to take pictures on every patient for every procedure. That's 2017. There's 2018 in front of my office. There's 2019, 20, whoops, 21, 22. Because I'm not in practice, I have to stalk my patients on Facebook and on the internet. But so that's 2023. That's an 8-year follow-up. Friends, would this case have been as interesting if we didn't have a preliminary photo, yes or no? So think about that, please, okay? Think about the power of this, the transformational power of being able to show the patients changes that are going on in their mouth, and then show them as the years go by that they made the right decision. Let's do another case, cases that haunt me. The kids at school are calling me rabbit teeth. This is Daniel. Daniel is one of my favorite patients from one of my favorite families. These are old intro camera photos, 1997. Daniel came in, he's been crying. You look at the top 2 photos of kind of really funky, stained, mottled, chipped enamel on 8 and 9. I don't know, is this some sort of amelogenesis imperfecta? Was it a high fever when he was born? It's not crystal clear to me. But he's at school. The kids have been calling him rabbit teeth, and Daniel's been crying. His mom brings him in to see me. Friends, all I did on that bottom right photo was I took a quarter-round burr, probably didn't even need to, just roughen the buccal interproximal surfaces of those teeth, flowed a GABA composite over the buccal surface, took an Explorer and just kind of zipped it around, cured it, shined it up. That couldn't have taken me 5 minutes, and that's the after result on the bottom right. That's a pretty cool result, isn't it? And that's the end of the story, right? Daniel's crying, and he's jumping up and down, and he's hugging his mom, and he's hugging Tina, and he's hugging me, and everybody's happy, and Dr. Mark is his hero. End of story, right? The title of this seminar is Cases That Haunt You. 10 years go by. Here's Daniel. So here he is, 8 years old. Here he's 18. 10 years have gone by. He's a senior in high school. What's going on in his life? The year is 2007. How did Dr. Mark's work hold up? Now, I love it when I have a live audience and somebody says, well, your work stinks. I'm like, your mama, it stinks. That's a 10-year follow-up on flowable composite on a busy 8-year-old that lasted 10 years. That's pretty good. You can appreciate on number 9 how the tooth has continued to erupt, how the tissue's pulled back some. You can see where I bonded at the crest of the tissue on number 9. Look at the color, the texture, the modeling of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Daniel's about to go to college. His teeth are about Vita shade A17. What treatment plan would you suggest for him? Now, to my students at UNC Chapel Hill, to my dying day, I say to them, when you do aesthetic dentistry, you want to do the front 2 teeth, 4 teeth, 8, 10, or 12. Almost always, if you just do the front 6, you get bit in the butt. Almost always, when you do the front 6, because the buccal corridor isn't full as you go distal with the canines, as the canines 6 and 11 curve around the arch. This is a case where you can see post-orthodontics. You can see 4, 5, 12, 13. You got a pretty full buccal corridor. So we're in shape. Dr. Mark talked about to Mom about doing some conservative veneers on Daniel before he goes to college. Sounds like a plan, doesn't it? Now, for your generation with digital x-rays, you may not experience the privilege and the horror of this. But for my generation, when you saw a manila envelope with another dentist's name and address written on it and a copy of the Panorex at the Byzantine member, you get furious because you know you just got fired. I am in hygiene checking Daniel. I've talked to Mom about getting veneers done, and there's a copy of his Panorex in an envelope. And I looked at Mom, and I looked at my hygienist, and I looked at Daniel, and I'm like, why is there a copy of his Panorex on the counter? Mom is looking very nervous. Daniel's looking very nervous. And they said, it's not you. We just need to get a second opinion. Lovely. Lovely, lovely. The next day I get a phone call from the dad, a physician, because it's time for the counteroffer. The counteroffer. Dad says he wants a total fee reduced 20% for Daniel's 6 veneers and tooth whitening. He wants a family dental care 20% off from now on for all 5 people. He wants free day white, night white for all 5 people in the family. He wants free athletic mouth guards for the 3 busy boys whenever they need them. He wants me to fraudulently file the insurance over 2 years to maximize the insurance. Who could resist this offer? Friends, how many of you saw the movie The Exorcist with the head spinning around and spewing out green pea soup? I listened to him on the phone and I said, how dare you? How dare you? I can't believe you're calling me saying this. My wife and I were at Mom and Dad's wedding. I was a middle school basketball coach for 9 years, where I would close my office Tuesday and Thursday afternoons for the winter months, where I would coach all 3 of those boys in basketball. And now it's time to do the veneers, and you're going to go get a second opinion? Whew, baby, I was smoking mad. My friends, we said earlier, every business has a percentage of business that's bad business. And it's okay to look at a patient and say, what you need is not what I do. Your patient's always right. They just don't need to be your patient. So I got fired. How many of you have been fired before? Oh boy, it broke my heart. And I wrote them a letter the next day and I said, that wasn't very fun for me, and I bet it wasn't fun for you. I love you guys. You've been in our life for 18, 19 years. We were at your wedding. I remember coaching the boys in basketball. We so appreciate having the privilege of being part of your family's lives. If you ever want to come back home, come on back home. Friends, guess what happened? It's Daniel. He's back. Headphones, safety glasses, Isolite. What are we going to do? How are we going to make gentle injection? Mick Falkel is a dentist and a chemist from California. He invented this product, Onset. The company is On Pharma, ONPHARMA. Dr. Stanley Malamed, the god of dental anesthesia, did a study, the difference of articaine and lidocaine. If you are using traditional lidocaine, the pH, the acidity of the medication is 3.5. It's the same as lemon juice. No matter what you think, you are burning your patient. So Dr. Falkel invented a 2-way mixing pen. You pull out 0.9 of liquid lidocaine, shoot in 0.9 of liquid sodium bicarb. The pH, the acidity of the lidocaine changes from 3.5 lemon juice to 7.4 water, and the patient's numb in 90 seconds. With a traditional mandibular block at the 15-minute mark, friends, you're only 67% effective. And if the patient says their lip is numb, that doesn't mean they have pulpal anesthesia. With buffered lidocaine at the 90-second to 2-minute mark, you're at 71% effective. If you aren't even any good at it, the 7-8-minute mark, you're at 100% numb. Common motion study's been done, friends. This will save you an hour a day. Using your Weave software will give your business team members an hour and a half to 3 hours a day extra. Using an ISOLite on every patient cuts time to procedure 30 to 50%. Buffering all of your shots will get you an extra hour a day. These are ways to have your practice explode. And when I see a show a frozen juice smoothie, that's the metaphor for success. When I say what time is it, it's smoothie time. It's like Hannah time. This was the number one practice builder that I ever did in my career. In passing, I'd say to Daniel, did you have breakfast? No, I was nervous. I don't want to hurl with the impression. I'd say, do you like smoothies? I like guava. What's your favorite flavor? You say strawberry. We pass a note to the business team. When I'd sit Daniel up after procedure, I'd hand him a smoothie and say, here's a gift from me to you. It's one of the number one practice builders of my career. It cost $2. Got me more 5-star reviews than you can believe. So there's the after on Daniel. How'd I do, friends? You see how full the buccal corridor is from 3 to 4 to 5 to 12, 13, 14. So there's no reason to extend beyond those front 6. I think the lab did a gorgeous job. So again, doctors, we look at this and we puff our chest up and say, aren't we bad? The lab nailed the ceramics. The business team members got the comfortable financials. The hygienist got the tissue healthy. The blessed assistant packed the cord, worked with the lab, picked the color, made the provisionals. Dr. Wonderful, what do? We spin a little enamel and get out of their way. So there's Daniel. That's 2007. That's a 10-year follow-up from the first visit when I bonded his rabbit teeth. That's the end of the story, right? Of course not, because now he's off to college. There's freshman year, sophomore, playing baseball at Brown University, junior, senior year, unemployed. You got to love it, don't you? 2013, he's got a job. He's in the money. That is a 20-year follow-up from me bonding his rabbit teeth. That's the end of the story, right? Well, not quite. There's his poochie. There's his honey. And that is a 25-year follow-up from the initial photo. My dear friends, who are we going to take pictures on? It's got to be everybody. Would this case have been as interesting if I said to you, imagine a teenager, an 8-year-old's got really funky enamel on 8 and 9, and the kids are teasing them. Now go forward 10 years. If you don't have a picture, you can't really see it. You can't really appreciate it. So that really makes a huge impact. I hope you agree with me and you see that. Let's do another millennial. This is Justin. The year's 2016. What do you know about Justin? Big, 6'6", jovial guy, fabulous beard, kind eyes, loving, dear soul. Loved caring for him. Whoops. Cases that haunt you. What's going on, man? What's going on with Justin? If we could be live together, somebody would call it as an anterior open bite, and Dr. Mark would ask you what causes anterior open bites. Justin, how can I help you? Tell me more. How's that make you feel? What'd your last dentist tell you? He said, well, we maybe could do some braces to pull those teeth down. I said, well, we can certainly discuss that. What'd you think about getting braces? He said, I don't know. You tell me. Do I need them? You want another opinion? I'll give you one. You're an idiot. You'd like to say that, but you can't. So what could cause an anterior open bite? If you look at the top right, tongue thrust absolutely could. You look at the bottom right, an NTI, an anterior repositioning jig. If you wear an anterior jig too long for TMJ issues, the posterior occlusion, the posterior molars and bicuspids can super erupt. Thumb sucking. Can adults still suck their thumb? Yeah, they can. But in fact, none of those three were really the ticket. The ticket was that top left photo. Justin was playing basketball and got an elbow and pushed 8 and 9 up into the alveolus. Can you see that? Eight and 9 got pushed up, excuse me, into the alveolus. You look at his occlusion. Friends, would you call that a V-shaped palate with a deep palatal vault? I think you would. You see some old amalgam restorative work done. Breaking down a bit, not a major issue yet. We can deal with that later. You appreciate the buccal lingual thickness of 8 and 9. Those are pretty sizable. The title of tonight is Cases That Haunt You. Why does this haunt me? Somebody put in the thread, what do you see? And the answer is, oh my God, post-trauma, post-endodontics, he's got external resorption, internal, external resorption on 8 and 9. You see the moth-eaten roots here. Is there any way to put orthodontics on these teeth and super erupt them? No, you can't. So these teeth have to come out. Friends, I always meet with my specialist, always, 99.999% of the time. This is one of the times that I screwed up and did not meet with the specialist beforehand. 8 and 9 are extracted, bone grafted. We're looking pretty good, right? Here's a little flipper that we made him with some wrought wire on the molars to help hold on. Implants are placed. Two-dimensional photo, kind of hard to say for the position, looking pretty good. And I get Justin back from the surgeon. You appreciate the decay on number 10. That's why you want to have photographs as well. But I looked at number 8 and 9, the placement of those implants, Cases That Haunt You, and I thought, oh my God, I'm dead meat. Oh my God, how am I going to recover from this? Because there's just no way. What do? You appreciate how buccal-verted those implants are, how high up in the alveolus they are. You're going to use a jig to make sure things are seated. You can see the tissue's blanched a bit. We're going to cut these back as far as we can. The only solution we could come up for was to put some pink ceramic at the class 5 area to try to mimic tissue. And my thought is, oh my God, I'm dead meat. Comment on the fit of the crowns. First impression, really look pretty good. Justin takes one look and I am sweating. I'm nervous. And thank God he had a big hunk of meat in his anterior lip area, covering the tissue area completely. So there's your before. He's given me the thumbs up. There he is noogieing with Giordano. So I so appreciate that. This was a case that haunted me, but I got lucky because of the position of that lip, the fatness of the tissue, and the way he smiles. There's a couple-year follow-up again. I ask him, he says, I love my new smile. And I'm like, oh my God, me too. I'm not going to say anything otherwise, right? Friends, how many of you worked on another office's dental assistant? What could go wrong? Cases that haunt you. I ask you, this is another office in my hometown's dental assistant who said to me, you're going to veneer my front teeth. I said, really? Who do you think would be easier to work on? This woman or my mother-in-law? I mean, you look at number 8, what is that? Corn? She said, you're going to veneer my teeth. I'm like, oh my God. What time is it? Smoothie time. She's gnarling on that thing. Look at her go. Cases that haunt you. Day of the race. We're going to try in the veneers. What could go wrong? Does anybody see a problem with this slide? What's going on here? Who's assisting? She is. She said, nobody can toilet like me. I'm like, are you kidding me? Okay, whatever. Now, friends, at this point, I'm working on another office's dental assistant who don't know that she's come to my office for her aesthetic dentistry. How do I feel at this point? Friends, I'm a proud practicing Hebrew, and I'm praying to Moses, Allah, Jesus, Buddha, anybody saying, please help me, please fit, please be happy. And here's the case tried in. And that's her smile. And I was so happy. And she is a gorgeous woman and a brilliant woman. And she put her faith in me. And I so appreciate her. And she's crying and she's hugging Tina, and Kleenex is flying around the office. And she says, Dr. Mark, I'm going to my car to get you something. I'm like, North Carolina, that means I'm getting my gun. I'm like, you don't have to do anything. I'm so happy you're happy. She said, no, I'm going to my car. And she went to her car and she brought me a bag of socks with the price tag on, 3 for $15. I'm like, do my feet stink? Somebody brings you a gift. What do you say? You say, thank you so much. I so appreciate you. Brother Mark Twain said 20 years from now, friends, you'll be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones that you did do. Let's do another case here. This is a baby boomer. That would be a wet mop. The case is about a woman named Rosie. She works at the Waffle House. And Rosie is walking through the kitchen at the Waffle House. She trips on the wet mop and face plants. So this is going to be a workman's compensation case. I hate workman's comp cases. They take forever and a day to pay for themselves, but that's Rosie. The year is 2011. Hair, clothing, makeup, affect. That's Rosie, the riveter from World War II. That just always struck me as so funny. Rosie kind of looks like Rosie, doesn't she? So what can go wrong? Give me a smile, you say to Rosie. Rosie doesn't want to smile. She's humiliated. Cases that haunt me. Why does this case haunt me? Rosie has face planted at work. You appreciate she's knocked off the incisal edge of 7, 8, 9, 10. The recessional number 11, the class 5 abfracted and recessed area, was not part of the accident. So I really couldn't include that in part of the treatment. We're going to deal with that in another day somehow. But you appreciate looking closer up, you can see the fractures going through the teeth. Again, the MIFL on number 7, the whole incisal edge of 8, the class 5 and the incisal edge of 9, the MIFL on number 10. Tough case, man. What are we going to do? Right side, left side. This is Rosie's one shot. Workman's comp is paying for it. She had irreversible pulpitis from the trauma from 7 to 10. Sent her to my endodontist. They routed 7 through 10. Rosie comes back to see me. Headphones, safety glasses, isolite, buffer with your anesthesia. It's a formula for success. Friends, how many curing lights do you use per restorative procedure? I cannot tell you how many people say, Dr. Mark, only use one light. And I say, why? Because I only have one light. I'm like, well, why don't you get another one? Those are flashing lights by Denmat. They cost about $500. We had 2 in every operatory. They don't cost anything to speak of, and it cuts your curing time in half. Headphones, safety glasses, isolite, buffered anesthesia, multiple curing lights, comfortable financial, some care credit, confirm the appointment by Weave, you're moving forward. Hygienist jumps in to make sure the tissue is all healthy and the cement is removed. There's your before. There's the after. How do we do? Isn't that beautiful? I'm so proud of that case. There's Rosie before. And there's the after. What do you think, friends? Made me so proud. And Rosie turns to walk out of the office. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. No, you do not have a bag with Rosie on it. Don't move. I got to get a picture of you. And she's a gorgeous woman with a gorgeous smile. And that's the end of the story, right? Except it never is, because the title of tonight is The Cases That Haunt You. There's Rosie smiling, and she's smiling. Where did Dr. Mark screw up here? Why is this a case that haunts me? Can anybody see? Put it in the thread if you see what Dr. Mark missed. Look at number 6. What's going on periapically? For the life of me, friends, I look at this picture now and I'm like, oh my God, how did I miss that? And in my mind, I can't believe that I didn't see it and the assistant didn't write it down, or the isolite was covering it when I started to press. I have no idea, but that is a draining fistula because number 6 is vertically split. One of the longest, fattest, thickest roots in the body is vertically split. Now I got to go back and send it to my oral surgeon to flap that area. Look at the margin area of number 7 now is exposed. And I'm like, oh my God, I hate you. We have to have an implant done. There's the after. And there's Rosie's smile. How do we do? That's a pretty cool case. And she loves her smile, and I love her. She was such a joy to care for. She writes me every Hanukkah, Christmas time to check in with me. I miss her terribly. She's an absolute delight. Friends, when you make a bad decision, it doesn't make you a bad person. It means you flat out miss something, and it's okay. There's Rosie before. That is a 12-year follow-up. And she's a gorgeous soul, and I so appreciate her. So did we do the right thing for Rosie? I hope you would say to me that the answer is yes. Friends, I don't want you to ever let one bad day make you feel like you have a bad life. Never let one bad day make you feel like you have a bad life. We have gone 50 minutes solid. I want some time for some questions and answers. The second half of the seminar is May 25th. Question I've got is, how do you see coaching being effective at a non-profit practices where we're not paid by procedure, but rather by billable procedures? For example, we get the same flat rate for one filling than we do for 5 fillings by Medicaid. So it means we cannot produce more by doing more, but it's unethical to do one filling at a time. Are there any other benefits to production? Any other benefits than production? Or are they aware of how nonprofits work? That is a great question. Billable procedure certainly is a frustration, and that you are doing nonprofit work. First and foremost, let me say thank you, because you're doing important work. But I want to go back to the word appropriate. And if it doesn't matter to you, I would ask you, my suspicion at a nonprofit is you have more patients that you can physically see. So I would treat as many of them you can, as often as you can. Okay? To me, the benefit of giving one shot instead of 4 shots, someone getting off work 4 times, you having 4 setups, what it costs your nonprofit, just the cost of setting up an operatory is what, $20, $30 in time, disposables, team time. So I respect how you work. And my suggestion for you, again, guessing that the volume of need out there is unlimited, that you just get as much done on everybody when you have them in the chair at a single time. Another question that we had in Rosie's case was endodontic treatment, root canals necessary, 7, 8, 9, and 10. She had irreversible pulpitis in all 4 of those teeth. My endodontist did the treatment. I did not. So I'm certainly respectful of that. Next question, please. I'm a hygienist for many years, and my new office wants me to hard sell when I just meet patients. Man, would I sit down. Audrey, I appreciate you being on tonight. Audrey, I hope you have an intraoral camera, which you could use to document what you see. And the hard sell to me is, why in the world would we hard sell anybody? To me, I would want to ask the patient, is it important that you keep your teeth the rest of your life? Do you want to avoid a root canal? Would you prefer me do this when it's just a $250 filling, or a $1,500 crown, or a $7,000 extraction, surgical extraction, bone graft, implant, custom abutment crown? At what level do you want to buy? So I think the concept of hard selling is a long-term lose. I left private practice. I had over 1,200 5-star reviews. I was there. When you look at the difference of passive, assertive, aggressive, I want all of you to be assertive in being an advocate for what's right for the patient. And I'm not being cliche. If it's your mom in the chair, if it's your daughter, if it's your wife, it's your son, it's your husband, it's your lover, your significant other, what would you be doing for the patient? Am I hiring? I wish I was. I had 32 years of private practice that I absolutely adored, and the women I worked for were simply amazing. Back to the question of Rosie and the workman's comp case. Did I modify the workman's comp billing? I had to call them back and try to get a live person on the phone and said, we sent in the final bill, and as her dentist, I screwed up. I missed a split that clearly was caused by the trauma of falling at work. So now we need, in addition to what we've already billed, we need to build a surgical extraction, bone graft, implant, custom abutment, and they paid for it. Question from Jessica: what is the best way to approach whitening a patient? The best way to approach whitening a patient, again, to me, is to say, what are your goals? It's Wednesday. When you want your teeth white? I'm going to a wedding Saturday. Oh my God. Get in the chair. We'll Zoom you. We'll get 8 shade changes, and then we'll make some custom trays. Dr. Mark, I don't have time to come back. Fine, we'll scan you. Philips will send the tray and the whitening material directly to the patient at home. So that's really cool. That's a wonderful way to work. So Jessica, again, so what's the best way to approach the whitening? Is to say, tell me why you want your white teeth. When do you want it done? What are your expectations for me? You expect one treatment to whiten your teeth for the rest of your life. That may not be a fair expectation. You got severe tetracycline staining. One Zoom treatment isn't going to whiten your teeth to a B0. So I think the best approach is define expectations. I think to tell the patient this probably will take 4 weeks, and when it takes a week and a half, they're thrilled. Question became, what is your favorite cement? For my crown and bridge, when I left private practice, my go-to material, which I loved, was Emax. And I am not a materials guy, friends, but I tried to stay within a company. So I love the Voco company of products, the etch, the bond, the composite, the cements. And I don't know that there's any science behind it, but it kind of made sense to me that I felt products would all be tested together with the same company's products. So that's the cool thing. DRG asks, how do you modify the pH with the lidocaine? Dr. Falkel with Onset, ONSET, the company is On Pharma. He has a mixing pen that has a two-way needle in it. So you put the lidocaine cartridge into the side of the mixing pen where the two needles pierce the lidocaine stopper. You push the button, it pulls out 0.9 of lidocaine. It shoots in 0.9 of liquid sodium bicarb, and the pH immediately goes from 3.5 to 7.4. Now, because of the nature of the buffering, you will get a precipitate in the liquid if you wait too long. So you need to buffer and then go ahead and use the anesthesia right away. You can't wait long for it. Questions, how do you deal with patients referred by a co-worker dentist that seem not to see the value of your work and keep bargaining treatment costs? Salma, thank you for that tough question. How do you deal with patients referred by a co-worker dentist who seem to not value your work? That's where I think you go into a consultation room and have a conversation. And you may consider, Salma, using some verbal skills like, Mrs. Smith, I'm sorry, I need to ask you a question. Have I offended you? Have I done something to cause you to be upset at me? Have I done something that you thought I didn't do my very best to help you achieve your goals for your health, teeth, and smile? And almost always, oh no, you're the greatest. Then what about what I'm saying is a fair fee for me to deliver excellence? What about me do you not value? That's a wonderful way, Salma, to personalize it like that and put it right in their face. Don't be passive. Do you know how much it costs to go to dental school? You know how much this equipment costs? You know how much canoe education I've done? I would turn it around on them and say, Miss Smith, have I offended you? Did I hurt someone in your family? Did you not like the way I sat down and talked to you and called you at night to make sure you're okay and gave that injection that you said you didn't feel a thing, and I gave you a smoothie and you had the headphones to listen to the music, and you said, Dr. Mark, I've never been to a practice like this. But now you're saying that $1,500 is not a fair fee, not a fair exchange of value for the crown. What part do you not value? What part of me do you not value? And they'll either shut up or they'll go somewhere else. My friends, who's got the last question, please? Anyone else? You all have been absolutely wonderful tonight. In the chat, I want to put my email. It's drmark at drmarkspeaks.com, and my cell phone is 336-456-6728. You're part of the Viva Learning family. You're part of my family now. You're part of the Phillips family. If I can help you in any way, if anyone's got a heavy heart over something and they didn't get an answer for it today and you want to talk to me, send me a text, send me an email, and let's set up a time to talk so I can see what I can do to help you out. It would be my absolute privilege. Life's just too short. And I want you all to just have absolutely joyful life. A comment, you weren't able to see that in the chat. My speaking website is Dr. Mark Speaks, DRMARKSPEAKS. My email is drmark at drmarkspeaks. You can email me directly through the website or my private cell, 336-456-6728. Friends, you have been absolutely delightful tonight. I so appreciate your attention and time. Brother Trung and family from Viva Learning and Phillips, I appreciate your love and support and trust in me for this webinar, friends. I hope I'll see every one of you and bring a friend May 25th while we do the second half of Cases That Haunt Us, okay? Thank you very much and good night.